Matthew Stafford. It looks like 12 years in Detroit is enough for any man. But he'll find a team out there, and I will root for him, unless he goes to the Bears. If he goes to any other team, I will root for him.
Oh, baby, it's Super Bowl week, Ahmed Fareed. Are you ready? Chiefs, Bucks, it's finally here. I mean, I was deprived last weekend. No football, what to do? But, oh, looky here. Ahmed Fareed's favorite player ever got traded this weekend. So that added some juice and some love. Matt Stafford. We're going to get into all of it today here on Chris Simms Unbuttoned. You know, we're going to ask me anything, answer some questions, all-pro, offensive, defensive team. Ahmed's got, what's your segment? What are you going to call it? The underappreciated, the under radar? What are you going to do
It's
here?
coined from what you said about one player. You called him an under-talked-about player. So I was like, let's make our under-talked-about team. So we've got the all under-talked-about people that should be talked about more, and we're going to rectify that situation. Yeah, you're right. We've got you got your all-pro team, offense, defense, some Ask Me Anything. We did the Homies Choice Awards where we asked the homies for their thoughts on MVP and Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. So we'll share those results. And I do want to say that during Super Bowl week, we are presented by Locker Room app, the only place for live audio conversations about the sports you care about. Immediately downloaded it. Going to check it out here later today. Seems like a cool thing. Live conversations with fans of your favorite team all across the world. So that sounds like a cool thing, kind of like what we do here on Unbuttoned. So, Chris, let's get into it. We're both from our home offices, by the way, because there's basically like a foot and a half of snow dumping on the Northeast right now. So if there are little glitches and if there are delays, Chris may have to come and go throughout. It's kind of like a live event. Like you don't know what's going to happen over the next hour and a half. It may go well. It may go poorly. You just don't know, Chris.
No, you never know, and you never know what might come out of my mouth. So that's just a great surprise of entertainment right now. It works well.
All right, so let's start with let's get into the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Rams, Lions, big blockbuster trade. Two former number one picks, changing teams, one going to a little bit better location with a little bit better weather. This one comes from Brian. He just goes, first off, thoughts on the Stafford trade, WTAF. What in the actual F, Chris? So when you saw the deal, what was what's your gut reaction, and what do you think now?
Well, my gut reaction was I wasn't shocked. I wasn't shocked because I had some inklings that it might go down. That's where I'll say I wasn't shocked. Being a guy, of course, yeah, you know, I got my friends around the NFL, and I had been led to believe that talks had gotten serious. But you know, you hear that a lot of times, and you don't know if that's actually going to come to light. Is this deal actually going to get done? Now, I did get word on like Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, that the Rams were going to make a major play, or already had. Either way, it was in the works, the conversation and all that. But then I didn't hear anything for a while, and I just like you, got the news basically just from Pro Football Talk later that evening, and was just like, wow, unbelievable move. And I really just thought right away of just the McVay-Goff, how quickly that marriage ended. And then just Matthew Stafford and, you know, a much-deserved new look and new approach that I'm happy for him. He's been beaten down for a long time. So it was cool to see. And that is some trade, and there's a lot to unpack here when we get into it.
Yeah, I think Matt Stafford could definitely take a step forward. I don't know. I mean, I'm biased because you're right. He's like my second favorite player of all time behind Barry Sanders. But I think with a competent team and a franchise around him that knew what it was doing, I think we'd be talking about him as possibly being a Hall of Fame quarterback because he's put up the numbers, 40,000 yards. He was the quickest to get to that number. I don't know if you feel the same way. I know you're high on him. But what did you think, first of all, just about what does this turn the Rams into? Does this make them, because a lot of people said this makes them Super Bowl favorites. Do you agree? Do you go that far?
Well, I'm not going to say Super Bowl favorites, but it makes me think of them as a true Super Bowl contender. Like even last year, as good as things went, I thought, okay, maybe the Rams can get to the Super Bowl, but things would have to fall the right way. You know, they'd probably need a little luck against the Packers, and then Aaron Donald might have to make some amazing plays in the NFC Championship for them to actually get there. Now I go, no, crazy stuff doesn't have to happen. They got a good defense. They got a good offensive system. And now you have a legitimate top 10 type quarterback in the NFL as far as talent's concerned. I mean, I just got done having a conversation, an interview with Kyler Murray, Ahmed, and we asked him, me and Florio asked him about, Stafford coming out to the NFC West. And he right away was just like, man, I think Matthew Stafford's a superstar. He's one of the best throwers I've ever seen in my life. So he's going to change this Rams offense. They went from an offense, and I think ultimately this is what led to the divorce between McVay and Goff, where McVay stuck up for Goff like in crazy ways in the years prior to this. But I think, lack of performance on the football field, having to constantly manage him and not being able to just call plays and be aggressive, I think that wore on him. And then we got into that aspect this year where, wait, you're the highest paid player on the team and you're nowhere near performing like you're one of the best players on the team. And then I think the last straw is from a guy like McVay, the John Gruden school, wait, you're not going to make plays. You don't bring a lot of juice to the building and energy and leaderships every day. You're paid the highest guy on the football team. And now I don't trust you to take care of the football. I think that was the last straw. And I think that's what hit like the pinnacle this year, where there were just some moments where I think Sean McVay had to scratch his head and realize, wait, I can't keep living like this as an offensive play caller, and I need somebody in there that can save my butt every now and then when my game plan or plays aren't working, up to full capacity.
Yeah, the Rams have a strategy here, obviously. Their last number one first-round pick was Jared Goff, and they're not going to have one this year, next year, the year after. They've traded some for Jalen Ramsey also. And I almost think I give them credit, because once you start trading your number one picks and you've got a team that the window's right now, I mean, why stop there? There's no reason to go halfway, right? If you feel like the missing piece is that quarterback to take you that next level and you need to compete here in the next 2 or 3 years, what are those first round? I give the Rams credit for, it's just like, once you've started it, continue it, Chris. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, no, I'm with you. And you know what? We'll get back to the Detroit side of the trade too. But I think both teams and both franchises kind of stayed within the molds of how they want to build the team. I do. Hey, Brad Holmes, he was, comes from the Rams. He was a draft expert type guy. So, yep, right. We're rebuilding a team. I'm going to do it through the draft. That's where, he made his money and made waves in the Rams organization. The Rams themselves have not been like that, like you said, the last few years. It's the one thing I give them credit for. They're not shy. They don't dip their toe in the water. They go for it every year. I mean, they basically push the chips into the middle of the pile and go, we're all in. We're here to try to win a Super Bowl, and that's all we're here for. It's not about consolation prize or anything like that, and I do like that. I think when you take into account, the fact that it is L.A. and the Rams seem to know what city they're playing in, and that star power is going to move the needle. The Lakers, it's star power. Okay, the Rams, hey, you Ramsey, Aaron Donald.
Uh-oh. Chris is locked up. Give him a second. He has a shocked look on his face.
Guy,
there he is. He's
that'll
back.
Get you good. Yeah. That's gonna
You're
get
back.
The casual LA guy now to go. Wait. I usually go drink Mai Tais and sit by the beach on Sunday. Maybe I'll go watch Stafford and Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, because this kind of looks like a fun team to watch. So they understand that aspect. And the other thing too, Ahmed, is you said it a little bit. The draft is about unproven commodities. It doesn't always work out the way you want. They're going with proven commodities and then also filling in with bargain free agent signings. And then they find their few middle round bargain draft picks to fill in the team. And they feel like they can be sustainable and be good that way. And I give them credit for it. And I don't see why they can't.
Yeah, look at who the Lions got with the number 3 overall pick, Jeff Okudah, who was one of the worst performing rookies this season, was put in some tough spots, but you were not very high on him. And
no slam dunk.
You were right not to be high on him. So here's what people are saying about the compensation here. And I think you did the show with Florio. He said the same thing. Josh tweeted in, why are people hating on the Rams? When you break it down, they gave up a 1 and a 3 for Stafford and a 1 to offload the $45 million contract of Jared Goff for the next couple of years. And I think that's the consensus. I don't know that that's right, though, Chris, because you look at the other offers that were out there that have been reported on. Apparently, the Carolina Panthers offered a number 8 overall pick. The Lions did not take that one, although you said on the show that that's because Matt Stafford basically didn't want to go to Carolina, right?
Yes. Right. My understanding is that Matthew Stafford said no to New England, no to the Carolina Panthers, and no to the Denver Broncos. You know, again, nobody knows Matthew Stafford better than you. And yeah, there's some things you like about Carolina. Like I'd be excited about some of the weapons they got and all that, but it's still too many unknowns. Hey, I got respect for Matt Rule, but it's only his first year in the NFL. We don't know where that's going yet. And Matt Stafford's like, wait, I've been in that situation for the last 12 years. I don't need to go like flirt with that situation again. So he wants to go somewhere that's a proven commodity. And right now the Rams are a proven commodity. McVay is a quarterback guy. There was a relationship there prior to all of this happening. And you know, I think Stafford pushed the trade in that direction, let alone you got the home cooking of, hey, Brad Holmes just came from the Rams and now is the GM with the Detroit Lions. So he's got the inside track on communication and just being the first person to get into conversations with McVay and Les Snead about this trade altogether.
So do you like it from the Lions' perspective? Because here you got no first-round pick this year, although I kind of like that because I feel like there's going to be no other year that's more of a crapshoot in the draft than this year. You have some players that sat out the entire year. What tape do we have on some of these guys who even did play? And so while this year's a crapshoot, they get the third-round pick. Then they can wait. They can get the 2 first-round picks in subsequent years. Now, they're not going to be very high, I don't think, and I'm not rooting against my guy, Matt Stafford, to make those picks high. I just refuse to do it. I'm not going to do that. So they're going to be late first-round picks, you'd think, but there's still value at the end of the first round, and if nothing else, you can use those to trade up higher to the round.
Well, definitely. And Brad Holmes understands how to build through the draft. I mean, that's kind of how they built things originally when Sean McVay just got there. They had a lot of good, young, talented football players that were mostly draft picks. And I think that's where, you know, the Detroit Lions look at it and they're trying to build a new culture and just a whole new outlook for their organization. And this is where Brad Holmes made his hay doing this type of thing. So he's going to go with what he feels comfortable. And then that also gives, you know, the team and everybody like, hey, we're all fresh. We're all new here, and the coaches. And now the coaches can mold the younger players to be a part of the culture and fit in the right way. So I have no problem with the way they're doing things. And Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and company, they obviously feel good enough that they think Jared Goff, you know, can be serviceable, be good enough. They can win games. That, you know, I don't know how they view him, but they obviously view him as a starting quarterback in football. And so I have no issue to answer that question. I do want to get back to, like, you know, the one aspect of like why everybody's talking like, oh, was that too much to trade for Matthew Stafford and things like that? And, you know, I think you broke it down the right way. You traded away a first and a third to get Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. And then that other first round pick was about unloading Jared Goff, which, again, let's put this in perspective, all right? We got one guy, and again, this is my evaluation, and I'm not trying to be personal. You know I'm just all about football. Matt Stafford is a top 10 talent in football. Jared Goff, from my studies, I would say is a bottom 10 talent for football. So now you take those two things, and now the guy that is the top 10 talent, he costs half as much as the guy who's the bottom 10 talent. So that's going to raise the price. You're getting the better player for a far much cheaper price. And that's where that extra first rounder comes into play in this situation. And I don't think people should be all that shocked by the facts of this matter.
Well, certainly, and then you have a team in the Rams that are going to be up against it in salary cap. Maybe not as much now with getting rid of Jared Goff, but that's why they did it, is that they have a little more flexibility right there, and so that is worth a first round pick to them. And I think from the Lions' perspective, who knows? Who knows if it was that first round pick, that future first round pick? I mean, who knows? It could have been, they could have valued him as a third round pick, or they almost could have valued him as like neutral, like trade neutral, not trade positive or negative. Like, we'll just take him on for nothing, because I think you're right. I think Detroit sees him as a guy that can have a shot on a team that's rebuilding. And if it doesn't work out in 2 years, what's the big deal? I mean, you weren't really planning on competing this coming year or the year after probably anyway. And so you give Jared Goff, a former number one pick, a second chance and see if he comes in motivated to prove everyone wrong.
That's right. And, there's a guy there that obviously believes in him. We just talked about Brad Holmes and how he helped build through the draft with the Rams. I would imagine he was one of those guys that said, hey, Jeff Fisher and Rams, yeah, this guy's good. We should trade up to be the number one pick and do that. So they believe in Jared Goff's talents. I think they do. And that's, to me, that's going to be the interesting going forward too. Hey, listen, with the Rams and McVay and Stafford, of course, I expect the offense to be better. Jared Goff it's a lot of short throws. It's the least amount, air yards in football when he throws the ball. It's always plays served up, on the bootlegs and quick play action passes that are just not high degree difficulty type plays for a quarterback. But now you got a guy like Stafford who we know can execute any play in the history of playbooks. Wherever the throw is, he can make it. So not only does he going to make the normal bread and butter plays of the Rams better, I do think McVay now, and this might put pressure on McVay too, to where now he's going to be able to be that mad scientist and go, wait, I've never been able to do this play or run, a play action, let him boot out to the right, and now we're going to throw it all the way across the field and run a post corner 45, 50 yards down the field on the other sideline. It's going to allow him to be a lot more creative too. And I'm very interested to see that aspect and what Sean McVay can bring, as far as his creative boundaries and what else he'll bring to that offense with a guy like Stafford at quarterback.
So you said it puts them in the conversation for Super Bowl favorites right now. Would you say that this makes them the favorite to win a very difficult NFC West? And part two to that question, Chris, how come your boy Kyle didn't step up and pay the price for Matt Stafford?
Well, that's a good question. From everything I know, the 49ers were very involved in the conversations. The other team I heard about is the Colts. I know they were. I don't need to speculate or anything. Those are the teams that were involved. But again, when you have familiarity between two organizations and things like that, it's hard to crack in there once they've gotten too far down the road as far as, trade conversations and things like that. And the other aspect of this is, Detroit, okay, we're trading our quarterback. We need a quarterback back. Obviously, they like Jared Goff. Maybe they weren't cool with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know what went on there. But, I think the one thing you could take away from these teams that were interested in Stafford, and, I heard the Colts were very interested, and that makes sense. They're ready right now. Same with the 49ers. When they're healthy, they're ready right now. I would think you hear all these same teams, though, Ahmed, get talked about in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes that are about to come up here soon as well. Obviously, these teams have some interest in upgrading their quarterback position.
So too early to tell on a favorite in the NFC West because, things could still change between now and next year. Final question comes from JT Wistrasil, says, do you think the Lions will still take a quarterback at number 7? So if you were the Lions and you were the new GM, would you still consider if a quarterback – there are a few good quarterbacks in the draft this year. If there's a quarterback you like at 7, if you take him.
Yeah, I think that still should be on the table for them. I get the sense by making this move that they won't look to do that. I feel like Brad Holmes is in the corner of Jared Goff, and that I don't think in my heart of hearts that they're going to be thinking about trying to draft a quarterback in the top 10. I think they're going to try to give Jared Goff a chance to be the guy and maybe be a part of turning around their football team. I don't think it's going to be a good look for the Lions if you traded away a Stafford. Now you're paying double the money for a quarterback that's not as good, and now you're going to draft a quarterback too. That could lead to a lot of people going, wait, what the hell? Why did we get Jared Goff? What was the point of all this too? So, no, I think they're going to try to make Goff work more than anything. That's just – I don't know that, Ahmed, but that's just what my heart and my football IQ would tell me right now.
Big blockbuster trade changes the trajectory of two teams. I would say that, although the trajectory of the Lions is unchanged for the last 5 decades. So who knows what this will do. They just have some hope and some picks for the future. Detroit Lion getting draft capital, and the LA Rams getting Matt Stafford and Ahmed Fareed as a secondary fan. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal for Sean McVay and the Rams. They got to appreciate that. All right, Chris, are you ready? We've got the under talked about awards coming up later, the Homies Choice Awards for MVP. We got some more Ask Me Anything questions, but right now it is time to unveil the Chris Simms 2020 All-Pro team, and I think we'll start with your offensive players here. So if a player did not make the All-Pro team, if they did not make the Pro Bowl team, no, it doesn't matter, because they can still make the Chris Simms All-Pro team for 2020.
Yes, very, very special. I mean, and compared to those, of course, you'd want to be on the Chris Simms Unbuttoned All-Pro team. It's very important.
If you had your pick, that's what you would pick. You're right. If you don't make it, then you hope you made one of those other two teams. All right, so let's start, Chris. So with this team, was there any special criteria? Are these players that you liked the most? Are they players that had the best stats? Like, what was your criteria for your team?
No, yeah, I don't go, me, I don't always go by stats. Stats are certainly taken into account, but listen, I had certain offensive linemen and players I looked at to where, okay, if it was close, yeah, I went with the one that I just like and think is better, just on my own, my own basis or evaluation. But and other things too, certainly where I looked at, okay, wait, both these players are very good. It's really close. I am big into looking at the schedule, who had a tougher matchups to go against, how did their team play and use them within their offense and things like that. So no, it's not about Chris Simms' favorite players. I got a few of my favorite players where I feel like these guys are all pro material, and I think they outperform some of the guys that are on the actual all-pro team. But those other guys just have popular names or on awesome teams that get all the popularity and all the notoriety that way. So it's a little mix. But I tried to go by what I thought were the best players at each position. That's really what I did.
All right. And we start with quarterback on the Chris Simms 2020 All-Pro team. I do not know the answers to these beforehand. You have not shared them with anyone, but we all know, and the homies will guess this one too, your quarterback is Aaron Rodgers.
That's right. You're damn Skippy. That damn Skippy. I mean, again, listen, whether you agree with me or not, I don't think anybody who watched football this year would sit here and go, wait, he's outside the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in football still at this point. Now, I think certainly, yes, he had the best year out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL. And, I think the other quarterbacks that he was in this conversation with have a better support system than Aaron Rodgers. So that's where, yes, not only is the MVP of football, he played the position the best, most consistently all year long. And again, like I said, it wasn't a superstar cast around him. Certainly guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen had more talent around him. I think you could sit there and even say that about Russell Wilson to a degree. Here's my one thing I want to say about Aaron Rodgers, all right? And this has been pissing me off a lot ever since they lost the playoff game. I see way too many comments of people going like, Aaron Rodgers choked in the game. And I want to be like, what? Because he didn't run it in on that 3rd down, so he choked. That's ridiculous talk. No evaluator would evaluate that as a negative. If we're going to get into the negatives, then, man, Brady, every play in the game was negative except for 4 or 5 plays. That's just insane. And here's the other thing I just want to say, too, because people are, Aaron Rodgers, it's the playoffs. They choked. Okay, not right. No, Nobody's lost more games throwing for 3 touchdowns and 1 interception in the playoffs history than Aaron Rodgers. The team never supports him. He can't catch the ball for Aaron Jones. He can't get Mike Pettin out of dumb defensive play calls, right? I mean, those are stupid as can get. There's a lot of other things there. But because the team is so based around Aaron Rodgers and his success is totally predicated on Aaron Rodgers and his ability to execute offense, this is why they don't win a lot of playoff games every year. It's hard to execute in the playoffs. The defenses are better, and as we saw, they don't call pass interference. You're allowed to call no holding or pass interference, except for one play that whole game. There was holding and pass interference every play in that game. But the teams that have to rely on execution, that's not a good thing for them. And they're not a super talented team. See, the teams with talent, like Mike Evans or a Tyreek Hill, oh, you're holding me? Oh, great. See, get off me. I'm going to run by you. Oh, I'm faster than you. I'm stronger than you. It doesn't matter. You can't hold me. They don't have those type of athletes on the side of the Green Bay Packers. Devontae Adams is very good. Chris Simms' power rankings of wide receivers were closer to the truth than him being number 1. The playoffs showed Devontae Adams is not a top 5 receiver. He's not a difference maker that way. He's awesome. He's a top 10 receiver. I don't give a damn how many catches he has. He is not a top 5 talent at the position that makes DBs shake in their boots. So sorry, I had to get that off my chest with that first All-Pro nomination there in Aaron Rodgers.
Man, this is the guys that you thought had a great year, and I did not think that you would get that fired up about your number 1 here. You pick Aaron Rodgers. I would have had Tom Brady as the quarterback, but that's just me. You know that about me. I would have put Tom there just to fire you up even more. I'm just joking, by the way. Okay, you're running back. You're all pro. You're all pro running back. This one I have no idea. Actually, for a lot of them, I will have no idea. You're all pro running back.
Well, I'm not going to go to Crazyville here. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. He was the best running back in football. There's no denying that. I'm not going to try to just be, contrarian just to be contrarian. No, he's a stud. The team is based around him. He's the best running back in the league. There's no denying that. And, hey, Dalvin Cook's awesome. Nick Chubb right there. They're right there nipping at his heels. But these first 2 positions were no-brainers. They stood out above the rest. Quarterback and running back, I don't think anybody would have anything different than those 2 right now.
You're right. I lied. That one was easy too. Aaron Rodgers, Derrick Henry, number 1. I mean, yeah, there's some other names of guys that had pretty good years and pretty good runs. I think Alvin Kamara had a pretty good run this year, but nothing like Derrick Henry did. All right, 3 receivers you're putting. There.
You're right. Right.
Three receivers you're putting on your team. So you're in a trips formation, perhaps all on one side. Who are your all-pro receivers?
Well, yeah, Tyreek Hill is my first choice. Tyreek Hill, to me, is still the most dangerous weapon in all of football. And for what he does for that offense, when he touches the ball, it's scary. Watch out. There's my first one. Stephon Diggs is my second one. And Stephon Diggs, my second one, yeah, we know the stats and all of that, but so many of the stats were not, designed by the playbook. And, yeah, Josh Allen gets some credit for that. But Diggs, I think I love about Diggs is there is just no weakness to his football game. Top-tier route runner, can do all the underneath stuff, can beat you deep, and then he's a football player. He's got great feel for, oh, wait, Josh Allen's scrambling. I'll find the right place to go and do all that. So he's going to be my other one. And then my third, I'm going with DK Metcalf. I am. DK Metcalf is going to be my third receiver because I think one-on-one, other than Tyreek Hill, he's the most physically tough, intimidating cover in all of football. And I know he doesn't have as many catches as Devontae Adams and some of the other receivers that are out there. It's still about he lines up in one spot the whole game. He almost always comes through. It's big plays. He affects the game because there's a lot of double coverage that he takes and does other things for the football team. And for me, DK Metcalf was certainly one of the 3 best receivers in football this year.
Some other names out there: DeAndre Hopkins,
Yeah,
Allen Robinson
tough.
had a good year. Keenan had a
Yep.
lot of receptions. Those
Devontae
guys,
Adams, of course, was right there.
Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, he was fourth this
Ooh,
year. Wow, fourth in yards this year for
I
Justin
know.
Jefferson. All right, so some in consideration, but Chris goes with Hill, Diggs, Metcalf. Perhaps an early look at your top 10 receivers next year.
Hey, Devontae Adams is going to be on there next year. I can promise you that. He ain't going to be in the top 5. I can also promise you that.
More controversy coming with that list. It was the most controversial list, which it's hard to beat your quarterback list because usually that creates some firestorms. I don't know how you did it with your wide receivers, but yeah, absolutely crushed it. Although that's not your goal. That's not your goal. All right, tight end. I'm thinking here, Travis Kelce. I'll be surprised if it's anyone else.
Yes, you should be. The only one I think that's even in the class of Travis Kelce is maybe Darren Waller for the Raiders, right? But Kelce, special year. I really, I don't know if, I've ever seen a tight end like Travis Kelce. Listen, at this point of his career, do I think like a guy like George Kittle is, more explosive, can make big plays than Travis Kelce, is a better blocker? Yes. But of course, we know he was hurt for a lot of the year. But where I say I've just never seen anything like Kelce, I've never seen a big guy, a tight end, as limber, as loose as he is, the ability to put his foot in the ground and come out of breaks just like seamlessly. It's very special, let alone like we talked about with Stephon Diggs, that backyard aspect of like it's like you and me, how we have this, like we can look at each other and we know what we're thinking, right? It's like Mahomes, I feel like when he scrambles, it's like, well, where's 87? And then 87's like, oh, my telepathic brain is telling me to move here because Mahomes wants me to, and they connect. It's special. He's one of the best, if not the best, natural receiving tight ends I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, very good, and proving it even more in the playoffs, like an unguardable force. You've got Hill, you've got Kelce, and it's unfair with Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't even seem like he needs those kind of weapons, but he's got them in Andy Reid's system. One of the reasons why I enjoy doing the show with you all the time, Chris, is that we give love to the big uglies up front. It's not all just about the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the running backs. So you're going position by position on the offensive line. We'll start on the left side of the line, your left tackle for 2020 All-Pro Chris Simms team.
I'm going to go with Trent Williams here. I know David Bakhtiari won the actual All-Pro, and he was really second right here. Like, as far as, man, that's nitpicking between these two. But where I think I give Trent Williams the advantage, or just where he impressed me maybe more than Bakhtiari. Williams is so special in the run game. And that's where I think that, pass protection, it's really close. I mean, they're both unbelievable. You don't ever have to worry about anything when they're anchoring your left side of the line. But Williams, to me, is a very, very special run blocker. And they ask him to do very advanced things for a left tackle. Shanahan, that offense, all the movement they do, they ask their offensive linemen to pull and get to the second level and do intricate things maybe more than any other offense in football. And that's really where I kind of gave him the advantage there.
Trent Williams on the left side, left tackle is your pick. Are you moving anyone around? Are you cheating at all and going to move?
No,
like you could move Bakhtiari to the
true.
right side. Oh, you are? Okay.
No, I know. I stayed true, though. I stayed true to the left tackles. I kept them there, and I kept right tackles at right tackle.
All right, let's go left guard then, Chris.
Okay, well, that's where, you know what? I didn't even put guards. I just went guards in general, okay? So I don't care where they are.
You're cheating.
They can figure that out. They can figure that out
as
far as the
totally.
guards are concerned. But
they're all Chris Simms 2020. They're smart enough to do that.
Definitely. And it's not as a big of adjustment for a guard to play the left side or the right side as compared to tackle. But Quentin Nelson, left guard, Quentin Nelson, all right? I don't know. There's really just not a better offensive lineman in football to me still than Quentin Nelson. There's just pass protection. He's immovable. Run game, he's a bulldozer and can do it all in the run game, whether that's pulling or getting to the second level or just absolutely coming off straight ahead and just bulldozing people that way. Quentin Nelson still one of the best in the game.
All right, let's do your other guard then, too.
Joel Antonio from the Cleveland Browns will be my other one. I know Wyatt Teller got a lot of talk there this year as far as his great year, which well-deserved. It was very good. But Antonio, to me, is a better all-around football player than Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller, awesome in the run game, got some work to do in the pass game, but Antonio has none of those issues, let alone, again, that offense, the running the ball, there was a lot on him, but Antonio, what they do, that Kubiak-Stefanski run system, all of that. He's a great pulling guard as well. I looked at Joel Antonio as being one of the more impressive guards in all of football this year.
Ali Marpet, Brandon Sheriff for Washington, also, I'm sure, in the conversation for you.
Definitely. They were right there. And I feel like I'm missing another name that I can't think of. But Ali Marpet and Sheriff are the next ones, I think, right there on that list for me. They would have been above Wyatt Teller, who I believe Wyatt Teller was the second All-Pro guard, right? On the actual All-Pro team.
I have to look back at it. I think so, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so let's fill out your line. Let's go to right tackle, and then we'll finish with center. So let's go right tackle.
Well, yeah, right tackle. I'm going with Ryan Ramczyk. Ryan Ramczyk is the best right tackle in football. I know that, like, Jack Conklin, he got a lot of love this year. He goes to Cleveland. Things look really good that way. I just think the diversity of the offense with the Saints, it's much more diverse than what the Browns do. They ask a lot of their right tackles. Ramczyk's one of those guys. You don't even know he's on the team there because we only talk about tackles when something bad happens for the most part, the right tackle. You never hear anything bad happen over there.
Yeah.
He really is. He's got great power. He can stop power rushers in the pass game and run game. He's your typical, Wisconsin road grader type. So that's my other tackle.
And your anchor of your offensive line, the center.
This wasn't even close. I don't think anybody played as well as Corey Linsley this year at the center position. I had a hard time really finding anybody to even, compete in that narrative. I know there's some other good centers out there this year, but I didn't see anybody that was, I felt like it was a little bit of a down year for Jason Kelce with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Ragnow with the Detroit Lions, good, but not to the level Linsley played. The guy in Tampa, Jensen, I love him. He's awesome in the run game. But, man, he gets beat in the pass game too much. Linsley's a guy that it's almost perfection across the board. He was by far the best center in football.
Yeah, J.C. Treader, also another guy who's up there.
Yeah,
and no mystery why Cleveland was able to run the ball so well this year, right? It seems like we've mentioned every one of their offensive linemen.
Yes, no, it was a special group. And, I took that into an account, too, a little bit, where, Wyatt Teller, it's not hard to play guard sometimes when you got a center and another guard, a tackle like that next to you who are really damn good. Not to take anything away from him, but those are like Conklin and Ramczyk, both awesome. I think it's just the diversity of the Saints offense that I thought about more, that is more impressive to me when it's a close one like that, and what they ask the right tackle to do maybe compared to Conklin and Cleveland.
So Brandon Sheriff, Pete notes, was the right guard on the NFL's All-Pro team. Jack Conklin was the right tackle. So they are left off of the Chris Simms 2020 All-Pro team, but they have a consolation prize there. Aaron Rodgers, Derrick Henry are the quarterback, running back, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Travis Kelce, your tight end, Trent Williams, Quentin Nelson, Corey Linsley, Joel Bitonio, and Ryan Ramczyk on your offensive line. That team's going to win a few games. That team would win a few games, right?
I would say so. Yeah, I think so. It's not easy doing these damn lists.
No, you leave off a lot of guys. You make a lot of people angry. They come at you, and then you go at them. And it's this vicious cycle of anger and hate that goes around and around that makes things go here on Chris Simms Unbuttoned. We'll get to your defense in just a second, Chris. But let's get a few of the homies' questions here. The Ask Me Anything. We haven't done one of these in a while. And I thought this one was kind of interesting, and so did Pete. Enma Perez 09. If all positions were of equal value on the field, who would be the best player in the NFL? So if quarterbacks weren't this, outlier of like by far the most important position, and quarterbacks are always going to be the most important position in football. If every position was just as important as quarterback, who would be the best player in the NFL? So I guess you have to think like who is far and away the best player at their position. And you might have just mentioned it at center there for Corey Linsley. But what do you think? Who is the best player in the NFL if they're all equal?
Well, it's a tough one. Holy cow!
It is.
I guess
it is.
No, some of the quarterbacks, right? Again, Mahomes didn't have the best, most consistent year.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to look at him as one of the best players in the NFL overall. And if you give me one pick to start my team, yes, I'm still going to take him because he.
But is he that much better than? Is the gap between him and Watson or him and Aaron Rodgers that much? Like Aaron Donald, I think Aaron Donald. You think of him and the next.
I think that's a
great pass rusher.
Yes, I mean he stands alone. He's in that conversation, definitely. I think when you look at him, gosh, I could even say Jalen Ramsey. Aaron Donald probably stands above the rest as far as compared to the rest of the people at his position and just being consistently dominant that way. So he would probably be, yes, the number one pick, definitely. But I think some of the quarterbacks, even though they're quarterbacks, and I know it's hard to kind of say like, oh, it's not as important as the other ones. But if we're just playing for the exercise here, hey, I don't know. Mahomes, Rodgers, Watson, Josh Allen, they're going to be the top of football too. I mean, you got the ball in your hand, and they just affect the game in too many ways with special plays right now. So I hate to be that guy, but I think, that's about where my brain is with that one.
Sure.
I think so. Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, pass rushers, certainly in that conversation too. They change the game a lot. That's a tough one, but I guess that's my answer there.
It's a hard one. Derrick Henry, it seemed like this year was head and shoulders above everyone else at the running back position, so that might be one to consider as well. Since we're talking about quarterbacks here, Chris, go Longhorns 45. If you're Urban Meyer, so this Lions and Rams trade got everyone thinking here, is that if you're Urban Meyer, do you offer the number one overall pick to Houston for Deshaun and perhaps another player or a pick there? So if you're sitting back, Jacksonville Jaguars, I think I asked you this about Matt Stafford before, but what if you see the opportunity to have Deshaun Watson and kickstart your rebuild with a new coach that way? Do you do it? Do you try to pull it off?
It's crossed my mind, and I mean, yes, you do it. You try to, sure. I would always say, listen, as awesome as I think Trevor Lawrence can be, I already know how awesome Deshaun Watson is. It is special. It's the type of talent where you go, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback for the next, 8-10 years. He has that type of talent to be dancing around, that top 5 area. So I would, and it's crossed my mind too in the fact, Ahmed, and this is where I think it's a good question. I think that's one of those where Houston might like that, right? They might go, wait, okay, we get Trevor Lawrence, he's Clemson, Southern boy, gonna fit everything we like here. We could get the fan base to get around him, the superstar Clemson quarterback, all that. I think that would definitely be, a feasible thought by Jacksonville. Now they're gonna have to give up more to go along with that. And the other aspect where I just don't think it happens is Deshaun Watson has final say here. And that's going to be the biggest problem with that. He has a no-trade clause. And he doesn't want to go from the Houston Texans to go, hey, let me go in the same situation and be a part of another rebuild with the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's where I don't think it's realistically going to happen.
What a mess this whole thing is. You got a player with a no trade clause that wants to be traded, but it's just it's going to be a mess, and it's going to carry this podcast. Yeah. We're going to be talking about this for months on end. Maybe it'll get resolved sooner than then. I guess it has to. Here's a crazy one to throw it at you. UT Madden, would you trade Lamar Jackson and a first round pick for Deshaun Watson? So more of a hypothetical, but if you were the Ravens and you had the chance to do that, would you consider it?
Well, no, I would not. I think you're in too deep right now with Lamar Jackson and the way the team is built and formulated that it would be a mistake to go. And Deshaun, we know, listen, he's a special athlete and he can run, but not like Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's a different stratosphere of running. And they've built the offense and the team and the scheme and everything around that. So that wouldn't make sense, And then, of course, the Texans would have to look at it and go, wait, we have to now build our team a different way too, because Lamar Jackson's not Deshaun Watson, and we got to change some things around that way as well. So that's where I think that conversation probably falls apart.
Squashing the hypothetical. There were a lot of questions about.
Well, it's a good question. I like the hypothetical.
I do
it
too.
Makes me think. It's a good question. Yeah.
There were a lot of questions, Chris, about the 49ers. You addressed it a little bit with Kyle at the top of the show and talking about the Matt Stafford trade. This is from Quest for Six. So 49ers fan, would you no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Hey, Chris, what would you give up for Watson if you are the Niners? Also, please convince Kyle, sincerely, every Niners fan. So he is speaking for all Niners fans and saying they want to give up whatever it takes to get Deshaun Watson.
Hey, I'm trying to convince him too. Anybody been listening to this podcast or Pro Football Talk? I've been saying it freely for the past week. I'm sure my buddy Kyle Shanahan, if he does listen, which he probably doesn't, he's probably not happy to hear that. But I don't know. That's just what I think. You know me. I don't hold any punches. I evaluate this stuff all year long. All right. They're a team that's in the Super Bowl window. You got a quarterback who's, one, inconsistent, but two, and more importantly, can never stay healthy. So that's an issue. I don't know what to say that. See, people they got to remember that. It's 3 years. It's 3 out of 4 years where it's like, no, he's not on the field for the majority of the year. And when you have a team that's in the Super Bowl window, whether you like that guy or not, or know that, hey, when he does play, we're good, man, is that a tremendous risk to take all the time. So that's scary, let alone, I think in my heart of hearts, I just think my buddy Kyle Shanahan would love a guy like a difference maker, like a Deshaun Watson. It's going to take, in this case, it's going to take 3 first-rounders. I mean, right? I think so. What we saw with Matthew Stafford, it's going to take 3 first-rounders, and hopefully Houston would be cool with having Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback, which I think is a possibility with what they got down there. Of course, Nick Sirianni came from New England. He drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. That might work. My scare is this, Ahmed, when it comes to the Watson conversation. We know there's going to be teams involved. We just saw the teams involved in the Matthew Stafford trade. So now it's Deshaun Watson. And I think there'll be more teams even involved with that. I worry that really at the end of the day, you get 6 or 7 teams who are all now competing for Watson, that it might end up being 4 first-round picks to get him.
Wow.
Now, maybe you get away if you have a really good starting quarterback to trade to him. Maybe you get 3. But I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't be. And I'm interested to see where this whole conversation goes.
If it gets to that point, Chris, is it worth it? Like, as great as Deshaun Watson is, like, is it worth it? Because it does limit your ability to fill out the rest of your team. We've talked about that with quarterbacks, and once you get past that rookie deal, it does make it a little bit of a roster crunch. If you really had to give up 4 first-round picks, would you do it?
I'd have to feel like my team was in the Super Bowl window or really close right now. Something along those lines. Yeah. Like if I'm the New Orleans Saints, I'm thinking about doing it. Your team, they've been the best football team in football for like the last 3 years. They got issues at that position. I don't know what to say. It holds their team back a little bit. But in my heart of hearts, I think this was it for Drew Brees. I don't think he'll be back next year. Like, that'd be a team where I'd be the Saints. I'd be like, hey, we'll give you Jameis and Taysom Hill and, first-round picks. Can we get Deshaun Watson back? So it's going to be interesting. I don't know if 4 first rounds is going to happen, but I'm just saying I don't think it's crazy if we get to the point where you got 4 or 5 teams really aggressively pursuing them, and that might end up being the case altogether. And it's risky, certainly.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, why I think it's going to be the teams that are kind of
Uh-oh. Chris is frozen. He will be back momentarily. This happens from time to time when his kids play Xbox. He's back. Chris.
I'm here.
Okay, good. All right. You just froze up there just for 1 second.
Good.
Okay.
I know I did.
So Chris, so while, this has got people thinking on the Philadelphia side as well. Where was this question? Oh yeah, Fillmore Museum. With everyone focused on Stafford sitting the market for Watson, do you think this move will have any effect on the Wentz situation in Philly? So has this greased the wheels for anything that Philly might be able to do with Carson Wentz? I guess in the idea that you got this guy like a Jared Goff, and you can pawn off. You might have to throw in some draft capital, but get something back that you really like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Wentz is more highly regarded in Goff and NFL circles, to where you won't have to pawn off maybe as much just to get rid of it. But I guess my big thing would be more this, as far as the way things shook down with Stafford. I don't think Houston's going to want to trade Deshaun Watson within the division. And to me, now I perk up to go, wait, are the Colts going to make a move for Carson Wentz? Frank Reich was in Philadelphia. Will they make a move and do that? Does that make that more of a legit thing right now? I still don't know what the hell's going on in Philadelphia. I don't. And I don't know where it's going to go. I like Nick Sirianni. Of course, he didn't have the greatest first press conference in the history of coaches. We saw that. But then they hire a quarterback coach who's got a relationship with Jalen Hurts. And this is where I would like to go with Carson Wentz, who I know doesn't listen to anything being said in Philadelphia, and where I want to go to him like, hey, listen, you need to listen to what's being said in Philadelphia. Nobody likes you there. Yes, the team likes you, but nobody else does, and that's not good. As much as I want to say, hey, I know you want to stick it out with your team, and that's where you were drafted, the fan base does not seem to support him. And if I'm him, I don't care what they do at coaches. That's tough to overcome when the fan base, and especially that fan base, and now there might be another quarterback sitting behind you that everybody knows and they kind of like the way it looked last year. I think it's still, if I'm Carson Wentz, I'm still forcing my way out of town there in Philadelphia.
That's a tough thing to have to tell someone. Like, I know you might want to stay, but I just want to let you know nobody likes you there. It's you. I just going to be the one to tell you that. They don't.
I'm trying to tell them. I am. Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Last one, and you mentioned it a little bit here before we get back to your All-Pro defensive team for 2020. GM Break says, what were your thoughts on Nick Sirianni? Are the Eagles heading down Dallas territory with ownership meddling? You mentioned it, not the greatest press conference, although I was sympathetic to him because we have found ourselves in similar situations on this very podcast where we're saying things and you look back 20 seconds later and you're like, that was awful. Why did I say it like that? So I am sympathetic with him during that press conference.
Yeah. And you like a better look, of course. Yes. You'd like them to just go up there, not have to read note cards, and be that way. But coaches, that's not their environment. It really isn't. And we've seen a lot of good coaches over the years not be necessarily comfortable in those environments. And yes, he was stuttering and bumbling words and doing all those things, and that wasn't a good look. He will be more comfortable when he's in front of the football team. And he could talk more like he really wants to talk. That's what happens too sometimes. These coaches, they get worried about, now I got the fans listening to the media. I want to sound professional and say things the right way, where really they might be in front of the team and they'd be like, hey, this week we got to play better and we got to do this and that, or we're not going to be around next week. And we got to fix these issues. And hey, dude, what's this bullshit? And now all of a sudden they're in a press conference where they got to speak like real professional, and they tighten up. So I'm not going to judge too harshly. I do like what he does on the offensive side of the ball. I followed him since he was with the Chargers. So I think there's some interesting things there. But the Eagles, I don't know what to think of them right now. I think there's issues all the way through, and I don't know if it's owner, GM, everything. There's issues throughout the organization, and one of those teams, like you said, we got our eye on to see how they handle all these things this offseason.
Well, they play in a winnable division. That's the one good thing going for Philadelphia if they can somewhat get things back together. The Chris Simms 2020 All-Pro defensive team, I am guessing, will probably not have a Philadelphia Eagle on it, unfortunately. You've got 2 edge. You got 2 interior defensive linemen. You're sporting 3 linebackers on this team, 2 corners, and a couple safeties. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, that is correct. That's how I did it. Yes.
All right.
You know, I got more names written down. So if you want to ask me like who just missed out, or if you want to add a third corner to the list, I'm cool. I got it ready. I know how my pecking order goes as far as these go. But you want to start with the edge guys first?
Yeah, I'm almost thinking like if you didn't make the team and you're not one of the top 2 edge guys, you don't deserve to be mentioned. But maybe we will still mention them. Yeah, let's start with your 2 edge guys on your Chris Simms 2020 All-Pro team.
Again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes things in life are just obvious. Like sometimes Nike basketball sneakers are just the best, even though they're the most expensive. They're still the best. Sorry. Sometimes it just works like that. Sometimes Coca-Cola is just the best sugar drink you can have. Yeah, it's the richest. It's the best. I think it's the best. I don't know who knows.
Pepsi.
What
I'm
you
more
like
of a
to
Pepsi
drink.
guy.
Who knows?
Diet Mountain Dew, but we all have our vices.
All right, edge guys: T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett. Those are the 2 best edge pass rushers in football. I'm not going to try to sit here and change things up just to be different or anything like that. Myles Garrett is in that conversation for being one of the best defensive players in the sport, and that goes right along with T.J. Watt. You give me, 2 guys to start a defense end, I'm picking those 2.
Pro Football Focus, number 1, Khalil Mack for the 2020 season.
Khalil Mack is awesome football player. I think I want more of a pass rush presence than what I've seen from Khalil Mack the last 2 years. And I love Khalil Mack. You know I do. He's better. He's awesome at the run, and maybe better than these 2 guys at the run, and with all due respect. But I don't think he's on their level as a pass rusher. And to me, I'm going to give that, a few more eggs in that basket than stopping the run.
For TJ Watt, I give him a lot of credit because obviously you're living in the shadow of your brother a little bit. And there were a lot of people that said, TJ can take that next step and be better than JJ. And that doesn't always work out, but he did. He really, people called it. They said this could happen. And he actually was able to produce the season that put him up there amongst the best, Chris.
Yes. Versatile, awesome in the run game. And just a naturally gifted pass rusher. There's no other way to say that. And it's one of those things, too, where, I think we hit this during the season, and Pete looked it up at one point for us that, they play in a 3-4 defense. He drops into coverage a lot, right? And that takes away some pass rushes. But, for me, he was one of those guys, didn't matter what game. You turned it on all year. He had tremendous impact.
Interior defensive line to help out those guys on the edge, control the run game perhaps. You got 2 of these. One is Aaron Donald. Pete has put that in already. We've already put that in. And the other one is still blank, though. Don't know that one. So, Chris, your 2 defensive linemen.
Yeah, well, you're right about Aaron Donald. Come on. That's a no-brainer. The other one, I'm going with Chris Jones. Chris Jones will be my all-pro defensive tackle. I know DeForest Buckner had a great year. I want to give a shout-out to Jerron Payne with the Washington football team. Cam Hayward, phenomenal for the Steelers. We know that. You give me 2 interior guys to start my team with right now from what I saw off of last year. Chris Jones affects the game in too many ways. I don't care what his stats are. He's as disruptive as anybody in the game, not named Aaron Donald. He's second on that list, and it's not far off as far as pure disruption. It's not. Maybe he doesn't get to the quarterback and get the sacks as much, but he's better and more disruptive in the run game than Aaron Donald. That is for sure. He's phenomenal at batting passes or making quarterbacks have to readjust where they want to throw because he's got a great feel of getting that big arm up in the air. He is a playmaker, and he plays up all over the field. So as much respect as I have for all those guys, to me, man, Chris Jones is one of the under-talked about, like that, under-talked about best players in all of football.
You're infringing on my territory, which I stole from you, so be careful there. But PFF, Pro Football Focus, agrees with you here. We don't like to have that happen too often, but he was the number 2 interior defensive lineman this year, according to them. Yep, he was. Aaron Donald, number 1. You're 3 linebackers. You're sporting 3 linebackers, which honestly, if Chris Simms was running a defense, I would not have pegged you as a 3 linebacker guy. I would think maybe nickel.
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't. But maybe with these 3 linebackers, we don't need a nickel because they can play. They can do it all.
All right,
my first one, I'm going with Fred Warner from the 49ers. Fred Warner, sideline to sideline, attacking the ball, pass coverage. He's as good as anybody in the NFL right now. So that, to me, and his fit within that defensive scheme is perfect. He has maybe one weakness, and that's that maybe he's not the biggest thumper in the world, right? But you can't have it all. He's still an amazing football player. Devin White's going to be my next one. Devin White, listen, there are a few plays here and there during the year where you go, ooh, that was a little raw. He took the wrong pursuit angle or went in the wrong gap. Okay, here and there. But the amount of wow plays and what he does for that defense on a weekly basis, it's off the charts. You can't run outside against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Devin White, he's going to run down the running back before they turn the corner. And then, like we talked about with just Fred Warner a second ago, Devin White, there is a little bit more of a thumper to him. So, if you got a fullback or a guard coming at him, he can take it on and get off or at least stalemate you and then make the tackle that way too. Devin White is a phenomenal talent and a guy that never has to come off the field and maybe the most explosive linebacker in all of football, really, when all said and done. And he hasn't even hit the peak of his career yet.
Do you think Devin White would have made your team, though, without his postseason performance? Because he's played really well in the postseason, too. Do you think that helped him?
It might have. You're right. Yeah. I thought about that yesterday when I was kind of finishing the team. I was like, am I picking him because I'm a little bit recency biased? Maybe, but I still think it was throughout the year. I just had too many moments where I just went, man, this Devin White, these damn linebackers for the Bucs, he is everywhere. And I think this year, really, he became a little more disciplined and scheme-oriented, too. He's one of the best in the game, no doubt about it.
And your final linebacker?
My last one, I'm going to go a little different here. This is a guy that I don't even know what the stats are. I'm not sure where he is, and maybe you could look this up, see if it can back me up. Leonard Floyd for the Rams. I'm taking him as my third linebacker. I know he plays a lot of defensive end too. I think he's listed as a linebacker still on their depth chart. That's why I chose him. And I found one here where I went, listen, I like Roquan Smith a lot. I like Eric Kendricks a lot up in Minnesota. Floyd had a very special year. And what they asked him to do, he had a big part in containing the Russell Wilsons and the Kyler Murrays of the world and really slowing them down. So I don't know what his PFF grade is. Maybe you could tell me, but to me, that was one of the best linebackers in football this year.
I'm having trouble finding him because I think they list him as an edge guy. So you did cheat. You did go out. You got a hybrid. You've got 2 linebackers and you have a hybrid. We'll allow that to happen here.
Okay. Yeah. And I legitimately think he is listed on their roster as a linebacker. So I didn't cheat.
So
when they play a 4-3 front, he plays linebacker.
All right. Well, we're gonna allow it either way, and you might be right, but we're gonna allow it. And Pro Football Focus had him ranked 28th among 62 edge players. So we have disagreement here, which I do like. I don't like when you agree with Pro Football Focus too often.
Good. Now things are back to normal again.
Things are back to normal. All right, your secondary. You got 2 corners. You got 2 safeties. One of your corners is Jalen Ramsey. You've already brought him up 4 times unprompted in this show. So Jalen Ramsey, I'm guessing, is number 1, but I don't know your other one.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey's a superstar. I think you could put Jalen Ramsey, to me, in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year with Aaron Donald. I don't give a damn that they're on the same defense. They're both awesome. They're both a huge part of that defensive success. And, man, do they put a lot of pressure on them. And then Jalen Ramsey, not only a great island corner, usually big corners like that can only match up against big receivers. That's not the case. He can guard the little ones. And the thing I love about Jalen Ramsey is the attitude and tackling he brings along with it. It's more than just covering guys. He brings an attitude and some energy and some life to that defense. So I give him a lot of credit there. Marlon Humphrey's the other guy I'm going with. Again, I don't give a damn, what his stats or where he's ranked. I watch him on defense every week, that Ravens defense. Nobody is asked to do more in coverage than Marlon Humphrey in all of the NFL. I mean, they put him on slot receivers, and they don't help him at all. And they go, hey, can you cover this guy that runs 4.3 and as quick as lightning all over the field, and we're not going to help you in any direction possible? I mean, yeah, he's going to give up a few plays, but there's only like 3 or 4 guys in all of football that you can even ask to do that job. And we just got talking about the other one. So he's special. He's a reason they're a top 10 defense. They couldn't even be that defense if they don't have Marlon Humphrey. So, again, that's where – and, you can look it up. I don't know where the grades are. I would think his grade is probably a little bit underwhelming for what he's paid and everything on the Ravens because, I mean, there was Revis Island and Marlon Humphrey's constantly on an island too. And it may be in a harder way than Darrelle Revis ever was.
Yeah, he is 12th according to Pro Football Focus for cornerbacks. But that's why, I mean, it's super difficult, even on the offensive side of the ball, is that it's difficult to parse out what the player is being asked to do, how difficult that is compared to what other players are being asked to do. Defensively, that's super difficult as well because sometimes you're not privy to what scheme they're running. But you've made the case many times. You just made it for Marlon Humphrey. You've made the case for Jamal Adams that his grades will never look as good because of how many things that he's asked to do that other safeties in the league are not asked to do. Is Jamal Adams one of your 2 safeties?
This was a tough one. Like, I went back and forth with this one. And yes, he is one of my safeties. I couldn't not put him on there. And again, I know he messed up some plays early in the year, coverage-wise. And I'm not even talking about the ones where he got beat, like, oh, wow, Julian Edelman beat him 50 yards down the field. All right, it's like we just talked about. I don't know another safety that was asked to cover a guy like Julian Edelman 50 yards down the field all year long. He was put in a lot of tough positions. But the reason the Seahawks defense turned around and by the end of the year, in the last 6-7 games of the year, why they became one of the best defenses in football is because of Jamal Adams and all the different things you can do with him. Is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he a nickelback? I don't know what the hell he is, but he has an effect on the game, let alone when the ball snapped. I mean, he's got one of the best noses for the ball in all of football. So when I look at that, the attitude in which that defense played, his ability to get after the quarterback and make plays behind the line of scrimmage and everything that way, yes, he's all-pro safety to me. He's one of the best defensive players in the league. There's no doubt about that. And safety's a tough position this year. I had a hard time figuring out my 2 safeties.
So do you have a free safety to pair up with a strong safety hybrid guy like Jamal Adams? Who's your other guy?
I'm gonna go with Jesse Bates from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, okay, right? Yeah.
That to me, yeah. I mean, I know we talked about him a little bit during the year, but I don't know. Out of all the guys we've talked about, I think he had the most biggest jump onto the scene. Like, right? Where last year I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. And then this year I went, whoa, is he the best safety in football? He is everywhere. I mean, not real big, but tackles with the same aggressiveness and craziness that a Jamal Adams tackles with, or a Budda Baker or anything like that. He's phenomenal there, but it's his range that I think is very special. He is one of the faster safeties in football. And yeah, he can run with receivers and tight ends if he does have to get matched up man-to-man. But, man, in that back end, when he plays center field, I'd argue he covers more ground than anybody in the sport. This was a tough position, but I love Jesse Bates. He was one of my favorite watches all year. And I mean no disrespect to guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I had a hard time leaving off this list. John Johnson for the Rams, I thought about putting on this list. Of course, Honey Badger, Buda Baker, Justin Simmons for the Broncos. They're all pro type talents. But to me, Adams and Bates stand out above the rest this year.
So Jesse Bates in 2019, according to Pro Football Focus, was their 64th ranked safety out of 83. This year, moved all the way up to first. They're in agreement with Chris Simms. Jesse Bates was their number one safety this year. They saw the same jump you did from that guy. So well done.
That Bengals secondary, I would say watch out for them. They got some good players, and yes, good job by both of us there. We were on the same page. But yes, again, it just shows you, hey, there's a lot of good football players on some of these lesser teams in football that we don't get to talk about or know about. And Jesse Bates is one of those guys, if you watch the Bengals this year, you kept going, who is this crazy dude flying all over the field, throwing his body around? Oh, that's Jesse Bates. And he stood out in about every game I watched.
Well, and that was one of the things that we talked about with the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, hey, they should be interesting to watch on the offensive side of the ball, but it's going to be fun for other teams when they're on defense. It wasn't that fun. I mean, they really did step up with some of the players up and down the rosters for Cincinnati. It wasn't all just the Joe Burrow show. I thought they made a good jump on the defensive side, and we may or may not have one of the players in the under talked about award winners in football. So this is what happened. So Chris, it was, I think, 2.5 weeks ago. You were talking about Jair Alexander, cornerback for the Green Bay Packers. This was before his big game where he had the 2 interceptions in the playoffs. And you said he is one of the most, and you paused, you said, like, under talked about players in the NFL. And I think it made perfect sense because it means like a player who's really good that why don't we talk about him more? And so people did start to talk about Jair Alexander after what he did in the postseason, but it wasn't happening when you first mentioned it. And so that's where we got the motivation, Chris, for the under talked about players. I feel like that is the heartbeat of this podcast. You talk about the players that need to be talked about.
Agree.
Maybe aren't talked about, right?
Agree. Yeah. Yes. No doubt. That's where, I try to be Robin Hood that way. Take from the rich, give to the poor. Like, ooh. Yes, okay, I know. Yes,
doesn't always work out like that.
Let's talk about some other quarterbacks and give them some love.
Yeah.
Right. I know. It doesn't always work out
like that. Yeah. If you're talking about GameStop, sometimes things get a little tricky, haywire. All right. So let's start on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
Because I did name the defensive back in the under talked about award winner, Jair Alexander. I gave that to you because he is the original. He was the guy that started this whole thing. Top overall cornerback grade from Pro Football Focus. He was number 1, Chris. That might be a little surprising to you. So they were talking about him internally there. He was just so good. So Jair Alexander is my under talked about corner. Any qualms with that? That was your
no,
one, so
not at all. I mean,
that
it hurt me not to have him on my All-Pro team. It hurt me not to have him on there. I really did. And he's worthy of that. As is like an Xavier Howard, for the Miami Dolphins. Those are all those type of guys. But good for you. I'm glad you got Jair on there.
I thought about Jesse Bates because I just did defensive backs here. So I thought about putting him there. I'm glad you gave him love on your all-pro Chris Simms defensive team. But there's another Bengal that I put on my under-talked-about team, and that is a defensive end for the Bengals, Carl Lawson, who led the NFL with 27 quarterback knockdowns this year. Who was 2 through 6, you ask? Oh, I'm glad you asked. He was just ahead of TJ Watt, Chris Jones, Joey Bosa, Leonard Williams, and DeForest Buckner. This is according to Pro Football Reference. So Carl Lawson under talked about on the defensive line.
Love me some Carl Lawson. Loved him coming out of the draft in Auburn. Anybody who's been listening to my podcast since the back of the Bleacher Report days, this was one of my hidden gems coming out the draft that year. He had some knee issues and some bad injuries in college where he fell down the draft. But this is a great story to see because he's a top-tier pass rusher in football. He was put on planet Earth to come off the ball and come around the edge against big offensive linemen. He's built for it, and he's got a great speed, but great power for his size too. He's a little bit of an undersized guy, but you wouldn't know it by the way you see him move people around.
And he stepped up in the big games against division opponents, had 6 quarterback hits in each of the 2 games versus Pittsburgh, 5 versus Cleveland. So he played well against those tough playoff teams. So that was cool to see as well. One more defensive player on the under-talked about team. That is, and this guy is perennially under-talked about. I think you've mentioned him before. Linebacker for the Minnesota Vikings, Eric Kendricks, on the under-talked about team as a linebacker, Chris.
Good for you. Again, I'm glad you're hitting him because that was a guy that hurt me to keep him off like an all-pro team too. Like you talked about with Jair Alexander. He's that quality of a football player. He's definitely in that conversation and never seems to get the credit he deserves. And like we talked about with some of the other guys, no weakness. Sideline to sideline coverage.
Yeah.
Taking on fullbacks in the hole, doesn't matter. There's no negatives to his game. Love watching Kendricks play.
Pro Football Focus had him as the 4th best linebacker in football this year, the 2nd best linebacker when you're talking about in coverage. And so with both of those marks, he should be talked about more. And he was not a very good defense. I mean, I think that hurts him as well, as that defense overall was pretty bad. Basically, he was doing it all, or trying to do it all.
It definitely does. Right.
Okay, offensive side, and we'll go to quarterback. I got quarterback, running back, 1 wide receiver, a tight end, and an offensive lineman. My quarterback is very difficult because all the quarterbacks
awesome.
Are talked about. They're all, it's like there's no one that's under talked about in the NFL. But I think there's one player who isn't talked about enough as being good or maybe a little bit above average. And that player is Kirk Cousins, quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. This year, he was 8th in passing yards. He was 6th in touchdowns. He was 9th in completed air yards per pass, and so they weren't just little dink and dunks. He's throwing the ball deep down the field, as we saw, to Adam Thielen. And I think you have to give him some credit for what we saw from Justin Jefferson this year. They got rid of Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers in football, and here comes Justin Jefferson. Yeah, a lot of it is him, but a lot of it was Kirk Cousins, bringing him into an offense, making things at least easy enough for him to excel. So I think Kirk Cousins is under-talked about and maybe underappreciated. Chris, do you agree?
I love it. Love it. Great pick by you. I mean, yes. Phenomenal year, like you said, top 10 type of year, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it's run the ball, and then when they drop back to throw it, they look for 30 and 40-yard completions. He's one of the best down-the-field throwers in the game. Yeah, he might not have one of the most powerful arms or this like crazy, sexy release or anything like that, but damn, the ball's on the money 90% of the time. I mean, yes, totally disrespected. You can win with Kirk Cousins. You can get to a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. Yeah, he needs a little bit of a team around him and a little more help. But I am a believer in Kirk Cousins with the right pieces around him.
Yeah, and the personality is a little out there, right? Maybe a little strange, a little different, and maybe that hurts him in people's eyes. But Kirk Cousins, I like his personality for being on my team. The offensive lineman to protect Kirk Cousins is a Denver Bronco, a tackle who played every snap last year, played every snap except for one game that he missed because of illness this year. Garrett Bowles of the Denver Broncos, 4-year career, 3rd tackle this year, according to Pro Football Focus, behind Trent Williams, behind David Bakhtiari. Garrett Bowles, we didn't talk about him enough, or the football community did not.
No, and I probably should have brought him up when we were talking about tackles and all that. You
yes,
talked
you're
about
part
like
of the
that
problem.
Jesse Bates jump from like last year to this year. Yeah, Garrett Bowles, I feel like, is that guy on the offensive line this year where you're going, last year I'm going, I don't know, maybe they messed up with this pick. Maybe he's a bust. Man, it seems like everybody pushes him back to the quarterback. He's got no ability to anchor in there against power, pass rushers or anything like that, but wasn't the case this year. I think Mike Munchak, offensive line coach out there, has got him right now, and I think you're fine and dandy at the left tackle position for a long time to come out there in Denver.
Did not allow a sack all season, had the best pass blocking grade of any tackle to play 800 snaps. According to Pro Football Focus, Garrett Bowles under-talked about the jump that he made this year. Maybe it was because they could hold this year. You always got to throw that out there. Maybe you could just do that. And so maybe he did that. I'll have to take a look at the tape. Running back is the guy that ran for your guy Kyle in San Francisco. Jeff Wilson, under talked about. He averaged 4.8 yards per carry. That was up almost a full yard from the year before. 44% of his carries went over the expected amount. That's a next gen stats thing. It's like they gave him the ball. It's like, oh, he got more 44% of the time than they expected him. That was 9th best in the NFL. And get this too, because people were loading up in the box against him. He faced 8 or more in the box 33% of the time. That's 8th most in the NFL. Still had a good year, led the 49ers with 10 total touchdowns. Jeff Wilson, under talked about this year, Chris.
I'm very impressed with your list. I really am. I mean, it's well done. Jeff Wilson shocked me this year too. I really didn't know he was that explosive or that powerful running through arm tackles and things like that. And yeah, it seems like we've talked about every other running back in the 49ers uniform the last few years, and nobody really talks about him until this year, and he got going a little bit there, around week 8 or 10, whenever that was. But I'm with you. He's one of those guys. I felt like at the end of the year, you couldn't tell the difference between him and Mozart. You're kind of going, wait, which one is that? Is that 30 or 31?
Sure.
Either way, it looks like he's got 2 rockets up his ass and he can go. And Wilson definitely can. It was a good pick by you. I like that.
You know what's under talked about? The Ahmed Fareed under talked about players in the NFL. Like, I feel like this will not get the love that it deserves, but thank you for appreciating it so far. Chris, 2 more. We got a wide receiver and a tight end.
You're welcome.
The wide receiver was hard for me. I didn't really I did settle on one, but it could have gone to a couple here. I kind of considered CeeDee Lamb in there because even though he got some love, he ended up with, 69 catches in the slot, 877 yards. That's the most by a rookie wide receiver in like 15 years. And he did it with, Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert and Andy Dalton as the quarterback. So I was like, that's pretty good. I thought Tyler Lockett, even though we still talked about him, he had a career high in receptions, just off a career high in yards, 10 touchdowns. I was like, he had a really good year. We probably should talk about him a little bit more. But I think the winner is a guy that our guy Rodney Harrison really liked, plays for Tennessee, gets overshadowed by A.J. Brown. Corey Davis, former 5th overall pick. Was huge this year, 15th in yards per reception with 15 yards per reception this year. He could get down the field and made a lot of big catches for them.
He did. It was a huge year for Corey Davis. Another guy that you kind of just thought, man, is this a bust? Is it ever going to really work out the right way? But great route runner. You said it. And he's got, more explosive ability maybe than I gave him credit for too. But, man, perfect compliment to A.J. Brown, who you say, you're right, gets more of the notoriety. And A.J. Brown, honestly, I thought about making him an all-pro wide receiver.
Sure.
But, when you look at the good offenses, it's more times than not, you need more than just one really good quality pass catcher. And that's where Corey Davis, really came in handy this year. Here's A.J. Brown over the middle. He can go deep. He'll break tackles. And now you could do some of the real route running type stuff with Corey Davis, and that's where they really kind of feed off each other. It's a good pick by you. And he's been, disrespected a lot through his career. I probably would have picked somebody like DJ Moore or maybe even like a Terry McLaurin before him. But either way, I like that you gave him love. I'm not going to be mad at you there.
And the final one, tight end. And I had to pick at least one Detroit Lion for my list. Had a rough rookie year, was a little underwhelming, but TJ Hawkinson is my under-talked about tight end. He had a PFF grade of 60 last year, jumped all the way up to 75th this year, so that was good. Had the 4th most touchdowns of any tight end in the NFL, 3rd most receiving yards behind Kelsey and behind Waller. TJ Hawkinson had a year where we should have talked about him a little bit more.
You're right. He's superstar potential. And I think next year we will be talking about him a lot more. I just think that it'll continue to go on the right path. And he is like, I think he's more like George Kittle than he is Travis Kelce. I think he's a better blocker than Kelsey. And a little bit more of just that, how Kittle catches the ball, it's like pedal to the metal. And it's like just controlled craziness, right?
Right.
Kelsey's not that way. Kelsey's a little more smooth, receiver-like. he's not going to like break tackles or lower his shoulder and run people over that way. Hockenson will. You know, he really is an impressive football player. And you could see that this year with what he did. And for a good guy that can block, man, can he run and run by people and make people miss that way too. So they got something good to work with. And now he's got Dan Campbell coaching him in Detroit. His game, I would be shocked if it doesn't continue to go upwards.
Watch out, kneecaps everywhere. TJ Hockenson is coming for them now. And Pete reminds me, too, because we have Garrett Bowles on the team. We got Bowles in this house. Yeah, Bowles in this house.
Bowles in this house. Garrett Bowles.
Certified freak. And under talked about this year. I think we got to make this a tradition. Maybe this is a biannual thing. The under talked about Chris Simms Unbuttoned Awards. Get these guys talking about.
I'm down for that. I'm with you. I mean, we really probably should come up with a team of these guys to where, hey, we always talk about these guys at each position. How about these guys who are every bit as good or in that conversation that their names never get mentioned? Mm-hmm. That's the tough thing about football. It really is. So many great players go unnoticed. Yeah.
Exactly. We need to get rid of some of these good players so that we can just focus on the few that are actually good. All right, Chris, you ready? Let's finish it with the Homies Choice Awards for 2021. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we made a little Google survey, and let me check how many responses we got on this. 325 total responses from the homies on questions of the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. So I'm going to go through all of them here, Chris. Let me just go through all of them here. We can react at the end. Okay. How's that sound?
Cool. Sounds good.
So the MVP, according to the homies, with 75% of the vote, is your guy, Aaron Rodgers. Tying for second was Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. So that the MVP goes in a landslide to Aaron Rodgers. Defensive player, exactly. They know. They listen. Defensive Player of the Year, and this is why they're the homies too. 51% of the vote, Aaron Donald. So basically, they're living in your brain, Chris.
That's awesome. Well, listen, you don't have to be in my brain. That one's pretty obvious. I don't think there's much discussion there. But where was the other 49% of the vote? TJ Watt got some, and who else?
TJ Watt got 20%. Xavier Howard got 14%, and Myles Garrett got 13%. Oh, and Jalen Ramsey got 8%. So there's the rest of the percentages there.
I like it.
The Offensive Player of the Year, which goes to the non-MVP. It seems like that should be a rule. Like if you win MVP, you can't be Offensive Player of the Year because that's how we treat it anyway. And the homies honored that rule. 46% of the vote going to Derrick Henry. But Chris, 20% of the vote went to Travis Kelce. He was second. I was a little surprised by that.
It says that the homies are pretty damn smart, though, because, I mean, you talked about it. We talked about it. Kelce is a huge part of that offense. His connection with Mahomes is very special, and then, how they use him. Oh, Hill's deep. Now it's Kelce underneath, working a linebacker man-to-man and doing that stuff. He's special that way. And I had another point I was going to make about him, but I blanked out, and now I cannot remember what it was. The other thing I love about him, too, is this, Ahmed. I mean, there's just so many games and plays throughout the year where I look at it and go, whoa, he's double covered. Whoa, they gained 35 on the play. Hey, he's double covered. Whoa, he gained 27 on the play. Because Mahomes, he trusts that Kelce's going to beat the double teams a lot of the times and knows he'll know how to run the right route, the right way, and all those type of things. So that's where Kelce is really impressive.
In third, with 9% of the votes, Devontae Adams. So that is an angry Devontae Adams contingent coming at you in the Homies Choice Awards. Defensive Rookie of the Year. This one was not that close. 59% of the vote goes to Chase Young, although I was surprised. Second place, 25% of the vote, a player that you like very much, Antoine Winfield Jr. got second, according to the homies.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in football and fans and everybody started to realize how good Antoine Winfield was towards the second half of the year. And then, of
Yep.
course, Bruce Arians talking about him the way he was and all of those things. And I know Bruce Arians has gone out there and go, no, defensive rookie of the year should be Antoine Winfield Jr. He's awesome, but he's not Chase Young. No. Let's pump the brakes on that. Chase Young, very special, affected games a lot more than just what his sack output was. I don't like that when I hear that too many times where they go, whoa, Antoine Winfield's year was better than what did Chase Young have? 8 sacks, 7.5 sacks? All right. But man, he had 4th and 1 tackles to not, goal line tackles to not let people in the end zone, picking up fumbles, returning it for touchdowns, interceptions. So that one goes to Chase Young, but Antoine Winfield, awesome year.
Zephyrin7 said no Snead on Defensive Rookie of the Year. I know he hasn't played a bunch of games, but when he has, he's been good. So we should have at least put him in.
He's been great. L'Jarius Sneed of the Chiefs, number 38 out of Louisiana Tech. Man, he can go. And our listener's right. When the Chiefs have had him and healthy, it makes them a special defense. That's one of the things that's intriguing about the Chiefs is their ability to lock down receivers here. Down the stretch. And that's going to come in handy when they need to blitz or be aggressive to stop Brady and the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
Curl Scouts of USA said it's a damn shame you don't have L'Jarius Sneed on here. Dude just played lights out, better than Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson, and he was the 13th cornerback picked in the draft. So I do blame you, Chris, for not putting him on there, even though you had nothing to do with it. You will carry the burden of that. And also, yes. Nick Brown commented too earlier. He goes, how can nobody remember to spell Davante Adams' name correctly? So apparently I misspelled that as well. The disrespect continues for Davante Adams here on Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Who is your coach of the year?
We like him.
Yes. Coach of the year and comeback player of the year, the last two. Coach of the year, 46% of the vote goes to Kevin Stefanski. Second was Sean McDermott with only 18% of the vote. And then third, and I was a little surprised by this, Brian Flores, maybe not surprised, 10% of the vote for Brian Flores. So that's the top 3, according to the homies.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Stefanski. That's for sure. McDermott right up there. I think, it'd be close. I would vote for Stefanski too. McDermott and I think Matt LaFleur. That would be a close one to me between that second guy. LaFleur, I had somebody bring it to my attention about halfway through the year this year, and I think it's correct. He does not get the credit he deserves for what he's done up there in Green Bay and how he's made it work with Aaron Rodgers and, of course, 2 NFC championship games where I'd like to see him get a little more love in that conversation.
Yeah, I put him on the ballot. What did he end up getting here? Hold on. There were 6% of the vote for Ron Rivera, so he got some love. Matt LaFleur got 5% of the vote. Andy Reid got 7% of the vote, so he was in there. I put Joe Judge on there. He got 5 votes, so Pete voted 5 times apparently.
Seriously.
Sean Payton, I put him on there. He got 3 votes, and Mike Tomlin got a vote. I like that one. I like that. He really would have been.
Sean Payton and Mike Tomlin deserve it.
I forgot, and Pete notes out, I forgot Offensive Rookie of the Year. And this was a very close contest between Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson. With 51% of the vote, the winner was Justin Herbert for the Chargers over Justin Jefferson. I'm surprised.
It's a close one. Yeah. It's close. I mean, the quarterback's going to get the favor there. And honestly, I probably would have picked the quarterback too. Again, Justin Jefferson, I don't want to take anything away from him. You know how much I loved him in the pre-draft process. He was my second favorite wide receiver coming out in the draft. I mean, I love what he did. But Herbert was equally as special. And I think from the fact that he came from Oregon and there was all these question marks and the Oregon offense wasn't very good, and then the fact that he had the greatest rookie year ever in the history of quarterbacks, it's hard to argue that, even as awesome as Justin Jefferson's season was.
The top vote getter for undrafted offensive rookie was James Robinson. He got 2% of the vote, but what a great year for him with Jacksonville, but overshadowed by the other 2 there. And the last one, The biggest landslide in the 2021 Homies Choice Awards. Comeback Player of the Year with 94% of the vote, Alex Smith. Ben Roethlisberger got the remaining 5.8%. Alex Smith is the winner, Comeback Player of the Year.
No brainer. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, Alex Smith was so amazing he came back. I was going, okay, that's cool. You're back. All right, now go back to the sidelines and protect your leg. Like, go sit on the bench. I don't like it. I mean, I worried about him all year, as we talked about many a times, to where I still – there's a part of me that wishes he retires this year so I don't have to worry about him on the football field anymore. I just worry about that leg in general. But amazing story. He's an amazing guy. He's a great human being, and, of course, we know his work ethic top-notch, and that was cool to see. And I'm glad he got back out there this year.
One comment here from Bradley Clem 3, and it was about the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He goes, so Ahmed made the ballot, but is there really a better offensive rookie than Tristan Wirfs? He gave up 1 sack all season to Khalil Mack. That's a good throw in there if we were going to give some love to what he was able to do for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and trust a rookie to protect Tom Brady, and not only does he do it, but he excels at it. That's a good shout.
That would be like, out of the rookie class, he would be one of the leaders in self-scout thyself as far as one I got wrong. You know, I did not think he could play tackle to the ability he has this year. I thought he was a guard all the way. You know, but he showed better foot quickness than what I saw, you know, up there at Iowa on film and things like that. And he has been phenomenal. I mean, really, you know, in the conversation already for one of the better right tackles in all of football. Forget rookies or anything like that. So it was a special year. It's certainly one I got wrong in my evaluation process.
Yeah, and Bradley says he doesn't get much help anymore either. He wondered how much does having Brady influence how good the line is? Like, does Brady do anything? Because the line was not very good last year. Brady comes over there and they all step up. Did they just know that Tom Brady is a brittle man who would break if defensive players touched him, and so they had to step up their game?
Well, it does step up their game to know he's there. They don't want to be the one on TV always looking like they're getting Tom Brady hit and all of those type of things. I mean, Brady, just by him being there, I will say, I think it raises the level of everybody. But I think more importantly, it's just the way they play. You know, I think that's really what's helped them out. They do a great job of keeping extra guys in the block. They run the ball. They run play-action passes like we talked about all year. When you run a lot of play-action passes, it's hard to be a pass rusher and just tee off at the quarterback because you always have that moment where you go, oh, wait, is he handing the ball off? Oh, no, he didn't? Okay, let me start my pass rush again. And that's what they've done a really nice job of. But they don't help out those tackles a whole lot. Both of those damn tackles are really good. And, you know, the Buccaneers did a great job. It's one thing that's, you know, everybody wants to give Brady the credit for everything down there. And I don't agree with that. That's one thing I'll say on the way out here.
So those are the Homies Choice Awards. Thanks to the 325 homies who voiced their opinion, voted in those. That was good. Well done there. That was a meaty pod. You got your all-pro team. We got the under-talked-about team. That was a lot of stuff there, Chris. And your internet connection, outside of a couple of times, held up the whole time. That's the biggest upset of this whole thing.
Pretty strong. I mean, it really is. I'm so worried. It's a blizzard outside right now, too. So I don't know what the hell is going on here. But we got it done. I'm glad we hit the all-pro team. More importantly, I'm very proud we got to your under-talked-about team. That was awesome. It really was. You're the man. And then Wednesday, all right, we're going to do deep dive. I'm going to get into that Week 12 matchup with the Bucs, Chiefs, that matchup, look at it again, bring up some interesting things that I think, you know, show itself on film and little angles that maybe we can bring up that will affect the football game. We're going to hit that. I think we'll have Big Phil on Wednesday for a little bit. I'm not sure about that. He is part of the CBS Super Bowl broadcast this week, so he might be a little busy. But either way, that's what we got coming up on Wednesday, Ahmed. Let's
do it. One more shout. Pete says, under talked about your Wi-Fi connection, holding up for the entire hour and a half. Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Well done. The Wi-Fi is coming.
Way to go.
And the old farmhouse somehow was able to go the distance.
We made it happen, baby. Way to go. Modern technology, modern medical miracle here, right? Way to go. All right. That's it.
Let's do it.
Ahmed, you the man. Way to go. Always appreciate you driving the ship. We'll be back Wednesday. Send questions pertaining to the matchup. Super Bowl 55. Man, there's a lot of good things to talk about. A lot of different interesting angles to hit on. You can send those to anywhere you find me on social media. Ahmed, you the man. You're on Wednesday, right? You going to be on with me?
Paul's with you, I think.
All right.
Well, maybe
Fine, the hell with you anyways. We don't need you. All right, you know what time it is. Clap it up. Yeah. Peace out, homies.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.